Hello everyone and welcome to the Hisui podcast. I'm Wolf Tycho and I'm here with just Tomix 9 Tomix.
Yes, it's a very lonely podcast today.
Yeah. I know most podcasts are with two people. I feel like it's weirder to have a podcast with four normal hosts.
Yeah,
It's not
that's true.
normal.
I guess I don't watch many podcasts, but I guess just normally two people and like a guest sometimes, right?
Sometimes two guests. I know one podcast that has three hosts, but I think that's the most. I don't know any that has four.
What are you thinking of for free hosts? Which podcast?
Trash Taste.
Yeah, that's like the only podcast I know.
Yeah.
But,
I
yeah.
know of some others, but I don't really watch many podcasts.
Me neither. I talk to like some people and they talk about like watching like true crime podcasts, and I'm like, that could be fun.
Maybe.
Do you want to become a true crime podcast for today, Andy?
What the hell would we talk about?
We could talk about true crime, and then we could like solve it like detectives.
Do we have any crimes to solve?
I don't know, any drama happening in your life that we need to solve, Andy?
Unfortunately, no. It's just been a lot of, like, normal stuff, you know, I need to get work done. Stupid film project for school.
Yeah, well that sounds exciting. I'm excited to hear about that. So you're currently working on a student film for a project at school?
Yeah. Dude, I've made so many short films this year. I made one over the summer. I made 3 different ones for this class. This is like the 4th one I've made. And then I also need to make another short film for my college application.
That's a lot of movies. How can you even make that many plots in 1 year?
Dude, Well, so I didn't write the one over the summer because I was like, I've written enough stuff. I'll let someone else handle that. But the other ones, yeah, I've written. But, like, dude, that's why, like, I have officially gone, okay, I'm taking a break working on DDPC because I am just exhausted from creating things.
That's fair.
Like, there was this milestone with DDPC that I was like, I need to hit this, and I've hit it now, and now I'm like, alright, I'm taking a break. I don't know when I'm gonna go back to work, and I will eventually. But
yeah, take your time.
But yeah, for school, yeah, like Tom was saying, I'm making a short film for film studies class. We've been making it for, like, since October, I want to say.
Yeah, it's about nearly 2 months.
It's been a whole corner of school. We wrote it. Well, I wrote it. Technically, someone else was supposed to write it. I think I talked about this because it was like I had another writer and I wasn't sure about how that was gonna go. The thing is, right, I wrote a story outline for the short film, and so all they would have to do is write a script based off that story outline, and I could give them notes on, you know, to improve it. So I felt pretty confident that it'd go fine. I did not realize how little of a writer this person was. All they were able to do was just copy and paste the story outline.
Honestly, the way you were speaking, I was expecting it to be like they did not like it and there's just going to be way too much conflict. I feel like them not being able to write and them just copy pasting is probably better for the team than them being their own kind of writer and completely disagreeing.
True. But the thing is, then, I just ended up writing the script. Because, I mean, we needed a script. But then we finished that. We started filming. I also had that person start off as an actor. We quickly made someone else an actor because they were struggling to remember, like, 3 words. And I was just like, this ain't gonna work. They are still in it, but they are, like, a news reporter in one of the scenes.
Right.
You know, a lot easier than, like, a main part, which is what we had them originally. So, they're doing a lot less than they originally were going to, but from the vibe they give off, I don't think they're complaining.
That's kind of a shame. It would be fun to have a team that's a lot more like interested, I reckon.
Oh, definitely. And the thing is like the actors we have aren't really, they're not actors.
Well, they're all like taking the same kind of class as you, right? They're here for movies, not to act, I guess.
A lot of people are just taking it for credit.
Or that too.
Yeah, but like, literally, like it would, instead of like acting out the part and like the reasonings for the words, they were just like regurgitating the words from the script, if that makes sense.
Right. But I mean, I guess like you're in high school, you can't expect too much out of it.
Yeah, I did try and yank something out of them. We'll see. I'm editing that after this podcast. Because it's due tomorrow.
Good luck.
Yeah. But, no, yeah, thank you, Tom, because Tom actually helped me with the project a little bit.
Kind of.
Because you did more work than some people on my team. But yeah, there's just like this little like line of like a Japanese like news like report that I was like running in the script, because basically I needed to like show how there was kind of this worldwide crisis that was going on. And so I was like, oh, by showing different news reports from different countries, I could give that, impression. And I was like, oh, I know somebody that lives in Japan.
Oh, truly.
And so, yeah, no, Tom helped me out with that.
Yeah, I asked one of my 2 Japanese friends I have here to record some audio and send it over. So that's that. But yeah. You talking about like your school film stuff, it reminds me of like back in grade 8 or something, like performing arts was a mandatory class, everyone did it, so you had so many people there who just did not want to be there.
Yeah.
And for one of the like projects, I guess, we were all put into groups and we were going to have to perform a play for the little preps, the little 6-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially before we like started practicing it, everyone had to write their own original fairy tale. And then the teacher picked like the 4 fairy tales he liked the most, and he made them directors of their own groups. And I got picked as like one of the directors, and I was with like a bunch of people I really weren't that close with because it's random groups.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, so this is like what everyone's line's gonna be. And then they were all just like, I don't want to speak. I don't like speaking. And I'm like, huh?
Why are you here?
Well, they have to be there. I get it.
Yeah. No.
But it's like, so how are we going to perform a play if none of you want to speak any lines? And what it ended up being, it kind of worked out. I guess it's one of those things where like creative boundaries can lead to something slightly more interesting. But they all acted out mute as characters in a play, and I essentially stood there as a narrator. And instead of them saying their lines, I'd be like, and then the big bad wolf said, I'm going to eat you up, and then they'd act that out or whatever.
That works.
It works, but yeah, it reminds me a lot of what you're going through, where you really just have some people there, and you think you can ask them to do something, but because they don't want to be there at all, you have to get creative and work around it.
Yeah, no, with the limitations, like something... Okay. So we, after filming for a long time, like Wednesday last week, we were like, okay, we only have 1 day left of filming. We have like 6 lines, maybe like a couple of shots here and there. Like we can finish filming in like an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Mm.
But then what happened Wednesday? Oh yeah, someone was, like one of the people that we needed there to film that day was sick. So we couldn't film that day. And so we're like, alright, we'll do it Thursday. Thursday, the other person that we needed to film couldn't show up that day. And so I was like, okay, we'll film it Friday then. Friday rolled around. Both people were there, but one of them forgot their stuff, so they couldn't change in order to film. Monday rolled around. What happened Monday? There was another reason we could not do it Monday.
Right.
And then Tuesday started, like, some testing stuff for the rest of the week, making us unable to film during class.
Just everyone was too busy, or?
No, like, the room we were filming in was occupied with testing for the rest of the week.
Ah.
And it would be like, oh, just change those scenes to be in a different location and just, like, rewrite it a little bit to give a reasoning. The problem is, the only scenes we had left to finish, we already started filming. And you can't really change locations just in the middle of a scene.
Right.
And so we were like, we'll just have to wait. And so we were thinking of, like, alright, so we're gonna film after school then. And so we were talking about, like, alright, we'll do that Wednesday. And then we were also gonna film before school Wednesday. That didn't end up happening, though, because someone had a club before, like, school Wednesday, and someone was going to a funeral after school. So then came today. We did film before school today, but then when school was over, I drove back to the school. We were gonna do our last couple of shooting, finishing up filming, hopefully. We went over to the library where we were filming, and we were like, hey, can we finish filming here? And they were like, we have tutoring here and also detention. Mind you, the rough draft is due tomorrow. So, we didn't really have another option at this point. And so what we did was we just, like, positioned the camera very carefully, went to a similar looking location, and just crossed our fingers and prayed.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like it will work, restricting the camera angle.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. This project has been a nightmare for the last, week.
Yeah. And if anyone asks any questions, you can just pretend it has some deeper meaning. Oh, why did the color of a wall change from blue to yellow? Oh, it's representing the internal changes that the characters are going through.
Exactly. But no, if anything, going through this, project has made me, more grateful with my experience in, Relic Castle and Evening Expo and working with talented people that also want to make cool shit.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of a big difference between, I don't want to say this with absolute certainty, but school projects versus university projects. People tend to care more for university projects. School projects, half your team's not going to give a shit.
Yeah, no, I remember freshman year, I had a group project, and this dude was, just watching, a pirated movie during class, I think. And we were like, hey, can you work on your part of the presentation? And he was like, I'll do it at home, don't worry. He didn't do it at home.
That's such a classic, yeah.
And then, in my junior year, last year, I had to take a freshman class because I moved high schools. And just, stupid graduation requirements and shit. But, oh my god, I had to do a group project once. It was infuriating. Nobody wanted to do anything.
Yeah.
And it's I've had some adjacent experiences with some fan games I've made. I'm not gonna point fingers, obviously. But, I mean, nothing that bad. If anything, any reason that a fan game has not done well that I made, 99% of the time it's because of me, and, me failing leadership-wise.
Yeah, it's difficult with a fan game, I guess. Especially, with a fan game, because it's, a hobby, and it's your own vision. A lot of it, when it comes down to other teammates, is up to you to make them care about it. So if some of your teammate doesn't care, then that falls back on you for how you incorporate them, I guess.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, speaking of like working with people, recently for like DDPC, I got into a call with Aldo for the first time. Like everyone had known him. Yeah, he has a similar voice to like Kenny and like Recreek.
I don't think I've actually heard Recreek's voice, but I know Kenny's voice.
Oh, you haven't? Oh yeah, I guess yeah. I was on calls with him frequently for Berserk. I forgot that most people weren't. Well, no, I also know he streamed a couple times, especially like during the Insert Name Jam.
Yeah, I missed his streams from what I remember, just because time zones or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I like Kenny's voice a lot. I think I'm a little bit weird about it. I don't know if it makes Kenny uncomfortable, but I think Kenny has a very nice voice. So maybe I should become a Recreek and Aldo fan as well.
Maybe. I don't know, like, the thing with, like, Aldo, it's like Aldo is, like, a mixture of Recreek and Kenny's voice. Like, I wouldn't listen to Kenny's and Recreek's voices and be like they're the exact same. They're adjacent. It's more like Aldo is similar to both of them than, like, Recreek is similar to Kenny, if that makes sense.
I see.
But yeah, no, it was fun talking with him, especially because we've been involved a lot working together for like a
for a long time now.
Yeah, no, he was even joking. It's like, yeah, we're kind of like a team at this point. It's just like making stuff together. I'm like, yeah.
That's nice, yeah.
And also since he's like worked with me, like before I really started like making stuff that especially got like recognition, I was like, oh yeah, you know, the last two like Relic Castle / EV Expo game jams, I've gotten spotlight because I don't know how much he pays attention to stuff like that. And he was like, oh yeah, that's cool, and you could probably get a third time in a row if you participate next year. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah. Too many years, Andy. Take a break.
Too many, yeah, no, I'm not doing it next year. Like, already this year. I'm exhausted even just from this year, even without a Pog Jam. Like, I don't know if I've ever told the Pog Jam stories, but they always did the Pog Jam at the most inconvenient week.
When is Pog Jam normally? What time of year?
It changes. The first one I did was in June. The second one was at, like, middle May.
Oh, right. It's normally like a bit before the Summer Jam.
Yep.
Right.
The first one that happened was... So the thing was, I was asked, back when I was doing ballet, to go over to another city in America and be paid to, like, perform somewhere. And so I would be there for a week, learn the part, perform at the end of the week, and then go home. That week is the week Pog Jam happened.
Right.
And so what I had to do was we lugged all my, like, computer stuff, put it in the back of our car, drove it over, and then during my off time from, like, rehearsing and, like, stuff, I would just, like, work on late nights on the Pog Jam project.
What the fuck, Andy? Like, I know it's too late, and, like, this is obviously in the past, but, like, you know you don't have to do every jam.
Oh, I knew that. I just really wanted to do it. It seemed fun.
Right.
But no, I mean, that was a chaotic time to do it. But yeah, I ended up making Split for that jam.
Right.
That wasn't even, like, a small game either. That's one of the bigger Pog Jam games. I mean, it's not big in comparison to the next Pog Jam, but you know. The next Pog Jam became wild. That Pog Jam, I think, was the same week as Finals Week. And I still did it. Like, I remember...
You don't need to, yeah. I mean, it's too late to tell you now, but you shouldn't be doing this, I feel like.
Well, no. So the reason why I did that Pog Jam, I originally wasn't going to. But I was so disappointed with how Hito turned out that I kind of felt like I needed to redeem myself a little bit. To myself, not to other people. So that one, there was a bit more of a purpose to it.
I see.
But, like, I literally remember, like, during study periods, in between finals, like, during study halls, I would just, like, bring out my computer and write out the character dialogue for, like, when you're interacting with the different characters.
Well, I mean, I guess as long as you're enjoying it, it's
Yeah.
alright.
That was a fun project.
That's good to hear.
It definitely succeeded in its goal of, like, making me feel better after, like, Hito. But, like...
That's good.
What's even funnier is, I think I said this in the podcast last time, the game that inspired Who is Pog, Noja, there's a lot of elements that are similar between them. Obviously, they're both, like, werewolf Among Us games. But, like, specifically, like, the intricacies of the gameplay system, I take a lot more from Noja. It's apparently
Is it like
getting
a similar... Is it like a similar, like, I remember Who is Pog had, like, the weird, like... Not sheriff. Is it called a sheriff?
It was, like, admin or computer.
Is it like that kind of those roles as well?
Yeah. Right,
Right.
and then there was Virus, who, if you kick them out, you lose. So there was that for Noja. And just lots of stuff like that. Like, the gameplay around Noja was one person of your group of people is randomly chosen to be Noja at the beginning of each run, and you have to kind of talk to the people, figure out their roles, and, like, pretty much deduct who has which roles, who is lying, very similar to Who is Pog, and then you would have to report to whoever is.
It's very, like obvious that you like these sorts of games. I mean, between Noja and also Danganronpa.
Yeah.
You've definitely got a type.
I guess. I don't know, but, like, yeah, with games, I definitely like that kind of stuff, but, like, with stories, for me, I really like stories that aren't just, like, straight up one tone, and that's what I really don't like about Western media, is it doesn't understand that tones can change throughout a story.
Right. I guess it's always going to depend on, like, same Western media is painting a broad stroke, but I feel like it's always going to depend on what in particular. But I guess if you want to talk about, like,
I guess,
TV...
like, Hollywood media.
Or Hollywood, I guess.
Like, Western media.
Like, for a long time, Western TV was sort of designed to be something you can just sit down on the couch and watch and laugh at. It wasn't so much about, like, having an overarching plot. But with the introduction of, like, Netflix and binging, that's starting to change a lot more.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, other than that, I mean, I have started writing something new. I don't know how much I want to talk
God, take a fucking break out of here.
No, I'm enjoying it. Let me
You've got, like,
enjoy it.
70 years left of your life. You don't need to do everything in 1 year.
I'm enjoying it, man. No, but, no, I'm writing a web novel.
Oh, that's different.
Exactly. Because that's the thing, and it was this one story that I was trying to make work as a video game, and it wouldn't have worked as a video game, and it wouldn't have been good. The thing is, I knew that once I was done with DDPC, I would not want to make another video game for at least, like, 5 years. Like, I would just not have the energy, and so I went, would this just work if I just wrote this out as a story? And yes, in fact, I think it works better than if it were a video game. But yeah, Nand is gonna be, like, my editor / proofreader.
Oh.
Yeah, he's agreed to do it.
Would you ever consider doing something in... Because you like visual novels, would you ever consider doing, like, a actual visual novel in Ren'Py, whatever it's called?
I have. I remember a while ago I had an idea of a, like, visual novel with the characters of Irina and Lev, but, like, as an actual visual novel detached from Pokemon.
Right.
And it was kind of a continuation and, like, completion of their story. There's that. idea that I had. I don't know, because the thing is, I wouldn't want to make a visual novel for the sake of making a visual novel. I would need to come up with a story that would work as a visual novel, and I would want to make a visual novel because of that story, not for the sake of making it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's the thing, I just don't have many ideas for if I were to make one. So right now, probably not. But in the
Makes sense.
future, I'm open to it. It's kind of like making something with Nand again, like co-writing or like co-developing. I'm open to it. I don't see it happening, but I'm open to it.
Right, I guess you just need that shower for it to come in. You just need like an idea first before you actually figure out.
Like I remember me and Nand continuing off of that. I'm sorry, I feel like I've just been taking the reins for this entire conversation.
No, that's alright. I feel like I've got nothing to talk about.
But like, with me and Nand, it's like we talked for a little bit, and I know I've talked about this before, but like an abstract DLC and how that's probably never going to be made because me and Nand just have very different ideas with how we would want to expand on it.
Right.
And even like working on future projects together, we would both have to come up with an idea that we both want to work on, which is very hard. And the thing is, we're a lot closer now as people than we were when making abstract, which just makes it harder to work with on a team, I feel like.
I understand that, yeah.
Like when you're more like personally friends with someone, it's just harder to be a leader to that person. I don't know.
Definitely. I mean, pretty much everyone I'm close to in like the Pokemon fan game community, I feel like I could never really work with on a project. There's just too many like I feel like if something doesn't go down, I'd just be doesn't go well, I'd be letting them down.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. The only time that I ever really did it was when I worked with Ronco, but that was for like a 3-day project on Holly Goes to the Lake. And that worked out alright. But that was like it became very obvious like how different me and Ronco can be. Because I really just wanted to like make something in 3 days and then call it done as quick as possible as soon as it was complete. So I remember going to bed one night being like, okay everyone, good job. We've done it. We've made the game. And then I woke up and it was like Ronco had done all this shit, polishing it up. And I was like, Ronco, why are you still working? We're supposed to rest now.
Yeah. And it's like we worked together on like Azuma or Azume. I don't know how you say it. But that was like before
briefly.
we knew each other.
Yeah, and that was like a very like it's just a very simple collaboration. I said, hey Andy, can you make these few things of art for me? And you were like, sure.
Yeah. Well, you didn't ask me specifically, you just put a recruitment page on Relic Castle. And I went, you know what, I'm done with ends. I finished the jam early, why not? And I definitely do not regret that decision. I still question why you were like, oh yes, the developer of Traps, that's the one I should get involved with on a project.
Well, I needed anyone, and it worked out well. I mean, I don't want to talk about it too much because it's dirty, air and dirty laundry, but like,
well, yeah.
Azume had a lot of trouble in how the team was originally. Essentially, we had 2 artists, and I learned, too many cooks in the kitchen does not turn well. And one of the artists got very unhappy with how things were run by me and was like, I'm out of here and please don't use any of my art. So I was like, okay, well, got to respect that, but now we're fucked.
Yeah. Oh, I'm guessing, I wonder if, like, because I remember with Broken, I initially had 2 sprayers, so I can just imagine you in the corner when that was going on. You're like, oh no, it's gonna happen to him.
I guess I wasn't really aware. I guess when it was happening for Broken, I wouldn't have been aware, I guess.
Oh no.
I wasn't paying attention to everyone's
There was 3 sprayers for Broken. I forgot, it was 3, not 2. It ended up being 2. But it wasn't because of like conflicts. It was just someone was more busy than they thought they were.
Oh, then that's not too bad.
No. I don't think anyone's ever left a project because of my management. Unless they have and they lied about it.
Well, then you're doing better than me, Andy. Don't worry.
Yeah, I don't know. I sometimes feel not great about my leadership, but I mean, all I can do is try my best and communicating.
I think, yeah, as long as like obviously there's things that a leader should do to get like the best product in the end, but I think especially for fan game products, what needs to come first is just being kind and understanding to whatever grievances your team has. But just sometimes you get little conflicts that can't work out with everybody being happy. So something needs to be done.
That happened when I wasn't the lead developer. It was when I was helping with another project. Again, I'm not gonna go into too many details because, I mean, I'm fine with everyone involved even to this day. I have worked with them after this incident. It was really nothing.
I'm using my deductive skills to figure out who you're talking about.
But it was a project that I was initially helping with writing, and, basically, like, I was the writer, they were not the writer. I wrote the story outline, basically they rewrote the story outline.
Right.
And that just felt a little rude to me, because I'm like, if you have problems with it, I'm open to feedback, but just, like, straight up rewriting it felt, I don't know.
Yeah, and I think that's, like, where, I think a lot of the, like, team problems you'll find in these creative endeavors, it comes from something very similar. It feels like someone sort of disrespecting their work or stepping on their toes. It's like, hey, why are you disrespecting my work? And then you just get conflict. Because these people, they care about what they make a lot because they're creative people and they put a lot of effort into it.
Which is good. I'd rather that than the opposite.
Yeah, definitely.
The film project.
But that's why things can often get so sensitive when you're not careful about things.
Definitely.
I guess we've never really done a podcast episode talking about team dynamics, have we?
No. Honestly, that'd be an interesting topic for us to
Well, I think that's what today's topic is.
I guess it will be. Team dynamics. I guess like an interesting question that we've kind of danced around is like, what makes someone like a good leader for like a group project?
Yeah. I mean, even if you're thinking...
we both have experience with that.
Even in like I know Cade would love to talk about this because I feel like he's always talking about like team and how to...
Management, yeah.
Yeah.
Man, Cade really should have been in this episode.
But
it's not a good one for him to miss.
I guess he can chime in some other week.
Yeah, or in the comments.
Yeah, I guess... What kind of question can you ask chat about teams, Andy, for the weekly question?
Weekly question. That's a good question.
Oh, who is your dream blunt rotation? Because a blunt rotation is very similar to a team, you know? You're gonna get along. Don't worry, Andy. You can Google it.
I'm gonna ask a different question then. I don't know.
But also, in chat, please answer your dream blunt rotation. I'm very curious.
What is, like... What's your ideal, either, like, if you see yourself as a leadership figure, what's your ideal person in a team, or if you're someone who assists and helps, when is your ideal leader in a project?
That's a very good, nice question.
Thank you.
I guess to make a... how can I reword dream blunt rotation? Andy, if you could pick anybody in the world from the past, possibly from the future, you can pick like your future kids if you want. Who would you most like to share a can of Coke with? And it can be multiple people.
Share a can of Coke with?
You know, like those late nights where you just sit down in the park with a friend, share a can of Coke, you take one sip, they take the next.
I feel like you're insinuating something, but okay.
No, there's nothing. There's nothing sexual about this.
Well, no, but you said just Google it. I'm not gonna. Well, tell
okay.
you.
The dream blunt rotation is just a blunt, like a bloody the kind you smoke.
Oh, okay.
And the idea is you take a whiff, you pass it to the next person. It's a blunt rotation.
Okay.
And so people often talk about like, oh, imagine Donald Trump and Joe Biden. That's my dream blunt rotation.
I don't know. I guess like for the best, like I don't know, sharing a Coke with someone is like,
And it can be anyone. It could be like some sort of creative that you
yeah, that's
respect.
What I'm thinking of. I don't know.
I really don't know either, to be honest.
I would have to think on that, but well, because the thing is, I don't know if there is anyone, because I mean, most of the time I feel like with creativity, you don't always know everything and you kind of just learn on your own. So even if I were to like try and get insight from people I look up to, I don't know how much that would help things.
Right.
To some degree, you kind of have to learn by yourself, and you know.
That's true, yeah.
So that's why I
But I
probably
guess-
just say, I'll just keep live and laugh how I have been.
Okay. No dream Coke rotation for Andy.
No.
If I had to pick, I'd probably like find some old dude. I don't know. Napoleon would be pretty funny.
That would be funny.
You
Also,
could really.
we should probably shout out before Ethan
Ooh.
kills us. Yeah, Ethan has Jolly Jamboree coming up next week, Wednesday through Saturday. It's a, he's talked about it before. It's the next charity, like, event that he's doing. I forgot specifically when it's for, unfortunately. I think it's a charity thing. It's some kind of event. And
It seems like
cash
there might also.
and-
There's lots of funny, like, tiered rewards. Ify talked about it last week.
It's still Gamers Outreach, okay.
When you guys were talking about it on the podcast, you kept some of them hidden, but you talked about some of them. And when you talked about like the Hints of Hisui incentive, something we'd get to recommend. So I commented like a 2-hour read-in of erotica because I thought that'd be funny. But it turns out something similar is already on the reward list. So that idea's been wasted.
Oh, the Safe for Work fanfiction reading?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But make sure to watch Ify's Jolly Jamboree and send in some money if you've got some spare change. It's for a good cause and we can make Ify do some funny things.
Yeah, we need to get it to $400, guys. Just imagine the crazy things we can make him do.
But yeah, it also seems like there might have just been a clip at the start of this podcast, Ify advertising this based off the message he just sent us. But
yeah.
If not, there you go.
But I think another thing that could be interesting with like team dynamics and why I'm fine with talking about this because I feel like most of the fault is because of me and not me like blasting other people, because that when talking about team dynamics, I don't want to just be like, oh, this previous person I worked with sucked.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
But like, even earlier this year, the Insert Name Jam. Which, no, you weren't one of the judges. I forget who all the judges were, honestly.
Cade was a judge, I believe.
Yeah,
Ify was a judge or wanted to be.
Ify wasn't.
Kenny?
Oh, Kenny, yes, Kenny was. I heard Ify. I'm like, no, not Ify. I
did say Ify. I did say Ify.
Oh. Yeah, no, not Ify. But yeah, Kenny, Tech Skylander, Endless was gonna be.
Oh, yeah.
But Endless dropped out of the community. And so he also left the project. Like, right when it started. But that's okay.
Right.
I get it. What else? I think those were all of them. And, well,
Judges.
I'm not a part of it anymore.
No, who knows if he'll even be a thing anymore. Could be, could not be.
Who knows? But, like, I wouldn't call the first time we did it a complete disaster. Not by any means. I think just... there were a lot of things that we needed to figure out by, like, organizing an event for the first time, especially because a lot of the people organizing it, it was the first time we've done something like this.
Right.
There was a lot more drama than we thought there was going to be. I was expecting, like, some little bit of, like, scuffles here and there. I mean, there was still nothing too bad.
Drama? Really? I mean, you don't need to say it, but I am surprised to hear that, because I thought it all was organized fairly smoothly.
Yeah, well, no, it wasn't, like, in the team. It was, like, outside the team.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, no, inside the team, we were all cordial, and it was all fun. In fact, we messaged some not in the, like, coordinator chat, and you can scroll up to see some of our early messages in the Discord server.
Oh, wow, from, like, the very start.
About, like, coming up with the name and, like, the art for the jam.
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah,
but yeah,
so,
I guess...
I mean, you can even see from that, like, we all got along, we all were happy to work on it. But, no,
yeah,
mainly,
it seems like the team worked well.
No, it was more just, like, I was not expecting, like, I don't know, I even barely remember the commenter on Relic Castle at the time.
Right, but that was just, like, a one-off. That's just a one-guy kind of scenario.
There was that. There was the whole streaming debacle.
Well, that's... yeah, I mean, that's...
There's that, which I wasn't expecting. And also, I mean, this was only semi-related to the insert name jam, but the other thing. He who must not be named.
Right. But I feel like all of that's, like, not reflective on the team at all. That's just...
No, it's not the team. It was a lot of unfortunate circumstances. One of them, the streaming one, I do feel is reflective of the team, mainly because I was put too much in the spotlight for the jam, and that was my main thing I think we did wrong. Especially, like, if you look at EV Expo or even, like, Relic Castle at the time. There was, like, an owner, but it wasn't, like, this is the Marin Game Jam, or this is the Cat Game Jam.
Right.
Where with this one, it felt more like, oh, this is Taiko's Game Jam. Where, like, yeah, I was the one who started it, but there were a lot of people who contributed to the ideas of, like, how it would work, and, like, judging the games, and, I mean, it was definitely not the Taiko Jam, and that's why I didn't want to name it anything stupid like that, because it wasn't about me. I wanted it to kind of live as its own entity, and I think because of how much I showed myself in, like, promotional... Because of how much I did for the jam, it kind of became viewed as that.
Right.
And then that made more pressure on me, and so whenever I did something wrong, it then put a bad mark on the jam itself.
I guess.
And that's the main thing that I felt like we didn't do well with the insert name jam. The other thing, we should not have split up the announcements of the, what was it? Of, like, the winners. You know what I'm talking about? Like, we announced the community winner before we announced
then,
all
like...
the judge winners.
Oh, I don't remember that tune. What was the problem with that?
Well, no, it's just, like, after the community winner was announced, a lot of people left the server, and a lot of people were just like, okay, there it goes. And so a lot of people didn't see the judge winners.
I see.
In fact, a lot of people that won did not see it. So that's what I mean by, like, we probably should have waited to, like, have it all. And some of that was, like, when the jam started, a lot of, like, judges and coordinators who at first were, like, talkative and, like, easy to communicate with, just started not, like, responding as much.
Right, I guess people get busy.
Yeah. And so there was stuff like that. Also, I probably should have waited to announce my, retirement until after the winners got announced.
I guess that is a pretty weird order to do things.
Especially because I announced my leave 2 minutes before the winners got announced. Like, 2 days. I could not have waited 2 days. But like when I left, a lot of those issues, I mean, were like brought up about like, yeah, we should probably line things up better time wise. We should probably like have more of a presence on social media, and we should also delegate more tasks and not just have it all fall under one person. But I don't know if anything's gonna happen in the future because I've left. I know I saw L asking about it on the EV Expo Discord server if there was gonna be a winter jam or an insert name jam to replace it, and I think nobody really knows right now, including me. I'm in as the dark as everyone else.
Especially with how the EV Expo website is at the moment, not working for half the people.
Yeah.
I can get on it just fine, but...
And I think, like, the main thing is just, like, to take out of that experience is, like, you don't have to do everything yourself. It's okay to delegate.
Oh, definitely. I feel like a leader... I guess if we're talking about, like, what a good leader does, it's a lot of delegation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it needs to be quite specific delegation, because if you say, hey, just do this broad area, then they're going to kind of sit there and be like, I got no idea what I actually have to do. I'm just in charge of this aspect.
Yeah.
So there needs to be quite a defined vision, and then the delegation needs to happen according to that.
Mm-hmm. And that's something I always try to do early on with projects is like make a to-do list of like all the sprites that need to be made, all the songs that need to be made, all the maps that need to be made. And so that we just have this to-do list that we just like mark off as we make the game.
Yeah, it was the exact same when I was working with Paprika and they were working as like an artist on the project. I'd have the Word document and every single art file that I needed done, I would write it down where it would be like trainer back sprite, trainer walking animation, trainer running. And then once each of them were done and sent to me, I could cross it off. And then sometimes she'd ask like, hey, what do I still need to do? And it was a very obvious list. I could just hand it to her and be like, cool. And then I'd have like another tier of if we get through all of that, this is kind of for like art that's needed for polish stuff. If you want to up the quality a bit, it's not necessary. So that I don't just overwhelm her with a massive list of 100 items needed.
Yeah.
We can work through in order of importance.
But like, with what you were saying about like having too many cooks in the kitchen, I do think there is like a middle ground where it can work.
Oh, it definitely
I've worked with
can
like
work.
2 spriters before. I mean, Abstract is the main one I'm thinking of.
I think if I was to do it again with 2 artists that were just like that I found from EV Expo that I had never talked to before, and they were just from like a recruiting page, I think I'd probably try to keep it a lot more separate. I'd make sure that I have very different jobs.
Yes.
I'd make sure the delegation is like, hey, you are in charge of this, you are in charge of this, so there's no overlap.
Yeah, that's kind of what happened with like what we did with Abstract and why I think it worked, and I was about to say that, so I'm glad you've grown to see that. But like with Abstract, Aldo was in charge of like the main character sprites, Overworld and Trainer, and Lycan was the one in charge of like the Fake Mon, the gym leader, and like champion. No, actually I don't know if I think she did the champion trainer sprite and Aldo did the Overworld sprite. But that was only because we were running out of time and we just needed people to fill up the tasks. But like Lycan was doing UI, Fake Mon, and like some gym leader sprites, while Lycan basically did the spriting for the stuff Nand was involved with the game, and then Aldo was making the sprites for the stuff I was involved with in the game.
Right.
That's kind of how I saw it. It's like, when making it, I was thinking it's like, I'm basically making an anti-game inside of an 8-gym game, is how I saw Abstract.
Yeah, I guess.
I think.
I wonder,
another
like,
thing. Something I learned after like 2 times of working with the team. It is so important to have a group chat with everyone in your team in there.
Well, I honestly think it depends. Like I think both works.
Well, because what I did initially was I talked to like each of the people in the group separately in their own DMs, and that was it.
I've done that before, and I've had it work sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I think that works if maybe like for other people their workload is quite small and you only really need like a few things from each person.
Yeah. Well, because what happened when I did that is because they were expecting to have a lot bigger of a workload, but I just didn't have much for them to do. And so that led into some complications. And kind of like a, hey, do you need anything else?
Right.
And they were kind of left in the dark for the most part because it was up to me to communicate in each of these people's DMs instead of just putting in my like chat of like, hey, I've done this recently.
I guess as long as you like keep, I think it's fine if you keep on the one-to-one communication.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something as well, like obviously like you say, when they have a small workload, they don't really know what's going on with the game. They've just sent you like what they need to do and then you're doing the rest. So I find it quite important to like send them little updates, be like, hey, this was the area done today. This is a little screenshot of it. You can see your work being used here. Thank you.
Yeah.
But like where the one time things went like quite badly for me was because I had like the two artists in the same group chat and we were talking as a group quite often, and so they were able to see each other's art and then they'd like comment on each other's art, be like, hey, it kind of clashes with the art I've done. This doesn't feel like the right Gen 3 style. Oh, actually it does feel like the right Gen 3 style. Your one doesn't feel like the right Gen 3 style. And then we got the issues.
That sounds like a mess.
So that's why I think sometimes, I guess it depends, sometimes it's better to do a big group chat, especially if everyone's a bit more like equally involved. You're not just completely running the whole show.
Because like Berserk ran off of its group chat. If we did not have that group chat, Berserk would not have been made. Like I talked about this in my devlog, but I remember it was like the first night of the jam, I woke up to Vendali and Recreek like discussing the intricacies of the awakening system and how that would work with the story, like all that. And like they were doing that while I was sleeping. And I remember I just woke up to that as they were talking and I went, yeah, I chose the right people for my team.
Yeah, that's like that's where it really shines, like a group chat about whether the different teammates can really interact, and then they're happy to help each other with their ideas, so that N and Vendili can kind of cook how the mechanics work together, because they both have to be involved with it. Like N's also making the game that uses mechanics, Vendili's making the mechanics, but she needs to know for what game. But yeah.
No, yeah, that was a highlight for working on Berserk for me. And like, I think what the thing is, but I think it's somewhat up to the leader to help, because I do think group chats are good. It's just up to the leader to make sure that like no squabbles like what you described happen. And I'm not saying like, oh, it's completely your fault, Tom.
No, don't. I mean,
better, but
no matter what happens, it's always gonna fall back on the leader, even if they didn't directly do something that makes them responsible.
Yeah.
Somewhere in it, like they are the leader, it falls back on them. It's their responsibility. So you gotta own up to that.
And like you just need to realize like when you're dealing with a group of people, like how people are, you need to take into considerations people's feelings and try and when you see something happening, do something about it.
Definitely.
Because I mean, if the team does not like work well together, the project is kind of doomed from then on, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And that's like when I look back on like projects I made, it's always the games I've had like the strongest team like working together and like being good at what they do and like working smoothly as a ship that makes the best projects. than like a team that is a little bit more of like a rockier ship.
Well, those
Some of that
projects
being
also
me.
are just like the most fun to make.
True.
Like Holly Goes to the Lake. It was really fun being able to work with Ronko and Vendili on like one team and Lychin as well. And that was just a really fun experience. Working with Paprika, even though it's normally just the two of us, it is a little team, and it's always fun having someone to bounce ideas off. And it does become very much like a co-head developer because she can come up with a lot of ideas for the stories and how the game's actually going to play out. And it's just like a lot more fun than when I'm just sitting there by myself trying to make something and then I just feel shit at the end of the day.
Oh, 100%. I mean, working by yourself and working with people are completely different experiences. But also, like, you're the only person you can always 100% depend on. Thankfully, I've had the great experience of working with people who I can just 100% depend on. But I mean, those are really hard to come by.
Right.
Because not only do you need to find people that are talented that are open to working on something, you also then need to find someone who has a similar vision to what kind of stuff they want to make as you.
Yeah, and I think that's the hardest part for teams with Pokemon fan games. I think you'll see so many times people be like, hey, I made my recruitment post. Why doesn't anyone want to help me with my game? It's because it's like, it's not their game. It's so hard to find someone who wants to help someone make someone else's vision. So if you can have two people who have the same vision, then that's going to just work a lot better.
Well, for me, when I work with teams a lot, it's not necessarily like, ooh, I want to make that vision, because I've already accepted I have a very different vision than most people in this community. That's fine. But, like, for me, it's more like I have, like, played something that I, like, respect from that developer, and I want to work with them on something. So it doesn't really matter the project.
That's kind of interesting.
That's what happened with Glacial Chronicles and Recreek.
Right.
Hey, you want to make a game for me with the Summer Jam? And I just said, do you want to make a game? They didn't even say what game yet. Not the genre, not anything. And Recreek was like, sure. And Nand, when I finished Concealed, the public full release, I went, because I knew, I want to kind of take a break this next jam. So Nand, I can help with your project if you want for the Summer Jam. Because he was talking about how he already had a plan. And then I joined his team and basically blew up his plan with dynamite and made a new plan, but you know.
But I think like what works so well in those like two examples in particular is the fact that like you and Recreek, you and N, they were very much like co-dev teams. It wasn't you helping Recreek make his game. It wasn't you helping N make his game. It wasn't Recreek helping you make your game or N helping you make your game. You were both making a vision together. You both parties came up with ideas.
We were both there from the beginning versus then starting with the beginning and trying to find people after that.
Yeah.
That is a big difference.
Vendili is like the only person in the world I know who is happy just helping random people with their visions because she likes scripting random shit.
Because that was the thing. It's like with Berserk, I saw Vendili like was open to working again for the jam because Vendili has done more jams than me at this point. Like, goddamn.
Yeah.
Like, I have no idea how they have so much energy, but you know, go you, I guess. But like, I saw a recruitment page for like Vendili, and I was like, you know, Vendili's definitely gonna say no, because I mean, this was at the part of like Berserk, which I go into huge detail in the Berserk devlog. I had no faith in Berserk when I first came up with it, because there's definitely like a stigma around like the dark, edgy fan game.
Definitely. And I'd even dare say I might get some hate for this. I think some of it is a well-deserved stigma.
And on top of that, I am also a minor writing a dark, edgy fan game.
Right. Well, I don't think you crossed any of the topics. I mean, you can make a big commentary about how America seems to place sex as more taboo than murder, but I don't think you crossed any lines.
Yeah. I don't think I crossed any lines either. But, I mean, it was definitely a more darker look to the Pokemon world. And more like how a world working like this would not work in real life to a little degree. There was a little bit of that. But I mean, it was mainly just kind of like, I've talked about this, about how like when you're young, the world looks so perfect and innocent, and as you grow up, you kind of learn about the more like evil stuff you were shielded from when you were younger. And more of like the true nature of the world. That's kind of the feeling I wrote it off of. But like, God, I was gonna go somewhere with this. I forgot. But like, yeah.
But I think that idea came across well. But yeah, and in the end, it all worked out. I think you made a pretty good story.
Oh, I remember what I was gonna say. Right, about like not feeling confident about it. Like, I went to summer camp for, film, and during the idea plays, they're like, oh, we can't do anything serious, because whenever someone young does something serious, it comes off as cringy.
Right.
And I was telling one of my friends personally about my idea for Berserk, and they just found it more funny than anything.
I guess it always comes down to like presentation, like
Yeah.
And so you can say like, imagine you go into a dark cave, and then this scythe monster kills the main character. It's like, okay, buddy, calm down. But if you can actually present it in like a compelling way, then it works.
But that's why I was like so unsure at the time, and that's why like when reaching out to Vendely, I was like, there's no way in the hell Vendely is gonna agree to work with a kid on a project to make a horror Pokemon game. Like, it was just kind of unlike stuff Vendely has made in the past. On top of, I felt like I disappointed Vendely with Hito and how I managed that and how the end product turned out because of me. And so I was like, there's no way Vendely's gonna accept. And then Vendely accepted. And I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, it seems like Vendely had some fun doing some of the more creative stuff as well. I remember her posting on Twitter about the little text box you get when you fight feral. Yeah. That no one noticed because nobody scrolled down and always.
Oh, that pissed me off so much.
That's because why would I run? It's a Pokemon game. I'm the hero. I'm gonna save the day. I'm not gonna run away.
Yeah, but you need to escape with your life, and it wasn't written the best. So I'm more annoyed at myself for like not writing it clear enough.
This isn't like a serious critique, but I just find it very funny how that worked out, because that's like a whole cool like hidden interaction with that menu that I feel like 80% of the players didn't see because they were just like, I'm the hero, I'm gonna fight.
Yeah, that's true. And I remember Cade went to that section and he was like, oh no, is Luca gonna die?
Yeah.
And I was like, nah. But, I mean... Yeah, I mean... Is there anything we haven't touched on when it comes to, like, team dynamics?
We've talked about the good, we've talked about the bad. I guess depending on how long this podcast goes for Andy, we're going to eventually get to hear on about your experiences in teams in uni and how that compares to teamwork in high school.
Oh god, going to college, you're right.
Eventually, I don't know if a podcast will last that long, but...
Tom, next year is college for me.
When does the school year start in America? Isn't it like April? August? That's ages away. What the fuck are you on about?
Yeah, in a year.
We have to get... we'll see. We'll see if this podcast lasts another 6 months or a year or whatever.
We'll see. Well, no, because the thing is I'm graduating in May. So I'm, like, officially not in high school in May.
Right. But you won't have your first...
No, I won't.
You won't have your first project until... whenever.
Yeah, which...
But I think, I guess, kind of like we've talked about, like the big difference you can see between like fun team projects for fan games and ones that don't work out so well is when everybody cares about what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that reflected in high school and university too, I think.
Yeah. I mean, definitely, like... Well, also, part of it is... High school, you have, like, a smaller pool of people. So there's a lot less likelihood finding somebody that is talented, you get along with, and has a similar mindset as you. Like, it's infinitely harder in high school than it even is for fan games.
I don't know if it's about, like, the pool of people... But I guess, when comparing fan games and high school, I guess so, yeah. Fan games is a concentrated environment of everybody here likes Pokemon.
Yeah.
And that's like what you'll get in university too. If you study physics, if you study film, it'll be like everyone in your class likes film, everyone in your class likes physics. It's like when you do labs in high school, your partner will probably sit there twiddling their thumbs saying this shit is boring as fuck. When you do labs in university, it's a lot more interesting, and you're actually trying to solve problems together. You're trying to figure out why something isn't working. You're coming up with fun ideas of how to change it to make it work.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing about, like, high school science, is even when you do labs, they're so, like, what's the word? Like, railroaded almost, that you don't... You're not really doing labs, you're just following directions.
Right.
I
guess university labs can end up pretty similar, but a lot of their instructions are a lot more difficult, at least in my experience. And so pretty much nobody will just get it right the first time, and there's always going to be some part of problem solving being like, what the hell have we messed up?
Yeah.
Even though it is just follow a recipe. The recipe is goddamn annoying to read.
But yeah, I mean, since you're a teacher, I mean, I've heard a little bit from, like, my mom, who's also a teacher. But what's it like working in, like, a group setting like that with, like, other teachers and...
Right, I guess I work
especially in a different country.
Yeah, so I don't work at a public school. I work at, like, an after-school care, after-school English classes. So the place where I work is very small. I've got one manager and I've got one other part-time teacher. I'm the only full-time teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very small team from that respect. But I guess, like, a manager is essentially a team leader. You kind of see, like, she tells me what to do, I do it. I'm supposed to contribute in meetings and help come up with ideas. I do my best. But I'm also aware that there's, like, I shouldn't say all the things I'm thinking, because there's this, like, hidden boundary of, hey, my ideas, like, they're not that valuable. I don't know how to word it, but it's like,
your life isn't their life?
It's like I can say ideas, but I also need to understand that whatever they've already thought of is through the framework of management and having to run a business and maximize money. And whatever ideas I'm coming up with, it probably conflicts with that goal. So if I'm like, hey, we should do this, it's like, okay, but you probably haven't been thinking about how that reflects on the finances.
Yeah. And actually, I know you were curious. We can do a whole full circle here with what we talked at the beginning. I know you were curious about, like, what the story is for the school project.
Yeah. Because I just want to frame this for the people listening right here. This is what Andy sent to me. Andy said... Let me find the quote. Andy said, it would just be a news reporter talking about this mass murderer. And I was like, okay, so just like some serial killer, right? He probably killed like 10 people. Maybe he's been on the run for ages and has killed like 100 people. And then Andy sends me the like script clip it, and it says, "Let me see." The death count in Japan alone is nearing the million mark. We have to stop him before the Earth, as we know, collapses. Who the fuck kills 1 million people in one country alone? What the fuck's going on, Andy?
Okay, so nearing the million mark, it's not there yet. That was too unrealistic.
How big is this knife? Can it just sweep nations?
Well, okay, so it's... The reason why so many people are getting killed is because it's not just one person, it's like one person who starts a movement. But that's not what the story is about.
Uh-huh.
The story is about God.
Uh-oh.
Well, because, okay, to set the stage for, like, this story, a while ago, I was struggling with, like, feeling like the work I was putting in wasn't being respected, and, like, I wasn't getting the results I wanted to for the work I was putting in. And
right.
So I wrote a poem about that in, what was it? Composition and reading class. Because it was just like, oh, you can just do, like, whatever you want for, like, the first 10 minutes of class. And so I just wrote this poem to, like, bring out my feelings a little bit about my frustration with that issue, and... What was it? Oh, yeah, there we go. And I wrote about it through the veil, from the perspective of God, specifically with how, like, you know, it's a very, like, common complaint about, like, religion. It's like, oh, well, if God is all-powerful, why doesn't he, like, fix everything? Why isn't the world perfect right now, then? If he's so all-powerful. And so, basically, I'm not gonna talk about my opinion on that issue, I'm just saying that's a complaint people have.
Right.
And so, I was like, that kind of mirrors how I feel. It's like, I'm trying my best, but that's still not enough for them. I wonder if God feels that same way.
Right.
And so I wrote that poem. Let me try and find the specific... I mean, it's nothing great. I wrote it in like 10 minutes. But, where is it? Here it is. Fire crackles in my hand, though only under my command. The seas beckon to my call, and when I say so, they all fall. Lightning strikes at a little flick, gotta make it all right quick. Although you try to make it all good, they always try and ask for more food. Man, it's hard being a god, cause the way they treat them is just odd. It's never good enough, they say. Don't they know I can make them decay? I can make them return to sand with just my hand, just under my command. And
I think that's alright.
Yeah, it's fine. But, like, that kind of metaphor stuck with me for a while, so when film studies came around, and we had to come up with a premise for a short film project, I was like, huh, I'm gonna, like, repurpose that metaphor, but, like, write it into a whole story. And so, the story is about God, who is trying to make the world all right, and that's where the, mass murderer comes in. Basically, God sees, oh, this person is about to be run over by a car, so he sends an angel to, like, push him out of the way of the car, divine intervention style, and save his life. Because of that, this person then, like, pretty much devotes his life to God, sees it as God, like, what's the phrase?
Like, choosing him?
Yeah, like, choosing him, and, like, because God, like, he is a little bit of a psychopath. And so he sees it as God validating his lifestyle, because he was specifically saved.
Right.
And so then he goes around and starts killing anyone who, like, doesn't believe in God, but he just uses that as an excuse to kill people. And so then God tries to... Eventually, God at first tries to come to him in a vision. And it's funny, most of the time when we see God, mainly for budgetary reasons, and also because I thought it was pretty creative, you just see God as an office worker.
Right, I think that's a cute way to do it. I think that, I like it.
And the way he interacts with the earth, he has, like, this globe on his desk. To make it rain, he, like, sprays the globe with water.
Right.
Or, like, when he tries to kill the mass murderer named Max Patton, he rubs his finger against the carpet to gain static electricity, and then just pokes the globe with his finger, just causes a lightning strike right where he is.
I like that a lot. That's really creative, I think.
Mm-hmm. So, but, you know, after he eventually kills, like, at first, he comes to Max Patton in a vision as, like, and he shows up as the stereotypical looking god with this white beard and robe. Because he was like, no one would believe them if, like, a man in a suit came up being like, I am God. It's like, okay, what course are you trying to sell me? Like, but eventually, because Max Patton just uses, like, God as an excuse to kill people, God coming as a vision doesn't really help. And so, he's still just like, oh, well, fuck you then. I'm just gonna kill, like, people who believe in you too. And God went, oh, well, that didn't go according to plan.
Wow.
And so then he's like, well, I guess I have to kill Max Patton then. Because, like, he's trying to preserve the world he created and he loves so much. But once he does, it's like, oh, happy ending. He saved the world. Humans are no longer going to be extinct. Because that's the main thing. He figured out about Max Patton killing people because there's this, like, countdown clock in his office. Like, that is, like, the symbolic, like, it fluctuates and, like, counts down to the moment where humanity will become extinct.
Like a doomsday clock kind of thing.
Yeah. And so, you know, the clock goes back to, like, a super long time, everything's great, but then a prayer letter flies in, and it's someone complaining. But it's only one, it's not that big of a deal. So then more prayers start coming in, more complaints. It's like, why do you let this person die? Why do you let that person die? It didn't matter that all of humanity got saved, because these little bad things happened.
Right.
And I mean, people also did not realize that, like, humanity was in jeopardy, so they aren't able to recognize that because they aren't aware of it. But it doesn't make it any harder for God, and so basically, after, like, a little talk with someone, he figures out that, like, what they, like, their opinion on it doesn't necessarily matter. You're the one who, like, knows everything you do. You're the only one who can have an opinion on what you did based off of fact. So if you're proud of it, isn't that all that matters? And so that's what the short film is about.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, like, interesting stuff there. And obviously, you know, I feel like probably just talking about it doesn't really give it justice.
Probably not.
It sounds like you've got some, like, very interesting ideas there that I reckon could be talked about a lot once fully realized.
Yeah, I do really like the script, and that's what makes it even harder to work with, like, actors who don't really care. It's because I, like, really care, and I honestly think there is something pretty cool there. And, I mean, you can probably tell some of, like, why I wrote this story was there were some people who weren't happy with Berserk, because that was around that time. And so I kind of wrote it to be like, well, you're happy with how Berserk turned out, right? Isn't that what matters? And I do that with a lot of my stories. That's just one where it's very easy to point to what, like, connects to with my life. But yeah, no, the short film is called Trust in God's Plan.
I'm curious, because obviously this is, like, a student film, so very much, like, limited in how you can film things. How are you filming the part where, like, the guy nearly gets run over but gets pushed out of the way?
So they went over to my house and we just we filmed it safely.
No,
okay, how do I explain this? Because we had someone walking across the road in front of my house. We made sure there were no cars around when he did that. But so then after that, we had another shot where we showed a car. One of the people who was a part of our team got into a car and started driving down the road. So then we had another shot looking at the car going down the road. We then cut to God in the office looking at the globe, being like, Michael, it's happened again. And it's like, who is it? Max Patton, he's on Murder Road, hurry. And And so then we see Michael, like, teleport in to that road area. We see a shot, like, from the side of them. Michael pushes him out of the way. We have another shot of, like, him at the end of the road, and the car goes past him.
Right. Makes sense. That sounds...
Yeah. Where you still get what happens, while also not almost running someone over with a,
Yeah, that's what I was worried about.
Oh yeah, I can send you what the Japanese news...
Oh, how it turned out?
Right now. Yeah.
That's nice.
I whipped that together in, like, 10 minutes. I don't know if the Japanese there on, like, the bar is right. I'm gonna guess not. But it's also a school project. So I just went with Google Translate.
I think it's about right, from what I understand.
Okay.
I mean, my Japanese isn't great, but...
It's also a school project, I mean.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna have to finish editing that once we're done with this podcast episode. Hopefully it turns out good. I mean, if you're interested in seeing how it turns out, I'm totally okay with showing it to you.
Yeah, I think if you could send it in the server, it'd be cool.
The server, yeah. Because I know I sent the one that I made over the summer, but I don't know if
I never got to watch that, yeah.
You should. I like how it turned out.
I'll try to go back and watch it then.
I did not write it, but I was the person in charge of, like, the cinematography and, like, how the camera moves and is aimed and stuff. Those are pretty cool shots. I was just gonna say, wow, we are totally a fan game podcast. I'm like, we talked about it more than last week.
We are a fan game podcast. I feel like, before we close this off, because I think we're getting towards the end, last week, I wasn't in the episode, but,
yeah.
You guys talked about stuff, right?
Stuff?
And you were like, just stuff, I don't know, like music, Wicked, so on, right? And you're like, oh, we're totally a fan game podcast, even though we didn't talk about any fan games. But you guys actually talked about fan games a lot in that podcast, I feel like.
We did?
Or maybe not fan games, but you talked about Pokemon a lot, because you all talked about, like, Pokemon Cypher.
Oh, I guess.
Some other stuff,
you didn't mention Pokemon.
Too, that I can't remember. You got your weekly Berserk mention.
Which we also had this week.
We have it every weekend.
There's so much that happened. There's just so much that happened in development. It's hard not to talk about it because
I think as long as you're writing your devlog, it's always going to be on your mind. True. So it's probably going to be every week while you're still writing that.
Yeah. Like, I remember when I was making Berserk, Ethan was like, hey, you made it through the crazy abstract, like, development, so you'll be fine with this. I'm like, Ethan, you thought the abstract development was crazy? That was smooth. That was smooth sailing, as all is considered. And Ethan was like, oh.
Yeah. But I think for this podcast, we've been a good fan game podcast. I think team dynamics is a very important thing when it comes to making Pokemon fan games.
Definitely.
So I think we've done
if not, it's like one of the most important factors. Because those are the people making it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's the most important factor, but it's up there.
It's definitely up there. It's definitely very important.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, we already have our weekly question.
Yep.
So do we have like a weird fact?
Poke rotation. Weird fact? We really need an Eevee here for this one, huh?
Yeah, no, I don't have many good weird facts.
I don't know if I've talked about this before. I mean, this isn't appropriate to talk about with a kid, but you're nearly 18 now. Have you ever seen a dragonfly have sex?
No.
It's really weird. I saw it recently this year for the first time because there's a fuck ton of dragonflies here. And like, they do it in like the same way humans do it, but it looks so weird when it's done mid-flight and by dragonflies. Anyway.
Okay.
If you're curious, to anyone listening, go. I'm sure if you Google dragonfly sex, something will come up. Well, I'll do it for you.
Okay.
Oh, all the images show them landed, but I swear I saw it happen mid-flight. Anyway, it looks really weird. It looks like some alien shit.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, very interesting. But
yeah, thanks everyone who has made it this far through the episode. It means a lot when you watch this much of more normal episodes of just us kind of talking about random shit.
Yeah, and hopefully you came away with a better understanding of teams in fan games, or maybe you didn't. I don't know.
I don't know either. And you also got to hear a story I wrote in the meanwhile.
Yeah. Okay, I guess.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah. We can sign off here.
Yep.
Alright, see you guys later.
Thanks, boy.